the suppression, the use of marijuana.
Wicked is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. My mom wants to take me to see it, but
We're gonna
I
see
work.
it. Yeah, we're gonna see it on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's cute.
Because we're doing like a big party thing for choir
oh, sure.
on Friday. So we're not really doing anything on Thursday. So
Good
we're just
for
gonna
you.
go. And then on Christmas we're gonna go see Nosferatu.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so I saw it last night.
Yup.
And, like, I don't understand how it was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it's just Act 1 of the musical.
Yeah, I didn't realize that
What?
it's 2 parts.
Yes, and I don't understand how they can almost double the runtime of Act 1, and it doesn't feel like it at all.
That's crazy.
Oh,
It's incredible.
That's
Like,
wild.
they had to have added in just a ton.
well, the book is really thick. Have you
Yeah,
s-
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that in interviews and stuff they said they were pulling stuff from the book. But like it flowed perfectly.
Nice.
I had no problems with it whatsoever. It was incredible.
So the merch is going to be going on for a while then. 'cause
Yeah.
If it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Part 2 comes out a year from Thursday.
Yes.
Have you been to Target recently? All
No.
of the Wicked stuff is everywhere.
I went a couple weeks ago and they had like one kiosk thing.
Yeah,
but
it's like tripled now,
Yeah, I
like
bet.
everywhere, and it's like in everything. It's like Starbucks has something,
Yeah.
Target
Yeah.
has something.
so Starbucks released the drinks.
The drinks.
And
I saw that.
and cups.
Oh, I don't know that I saw the cups.
Yeah.
They probably were like, no, this is going to be a really great film. You guys should make as much money as possible.
I mean, yeah.
So.
And it literally, like, the budget was 147 million, and
Oh.
opening day it had already gotten over 100 million,
Oh my god.
Oh,
So- and
they're
then-
doing good.
and that was Thursday. So yeah.
Well, and I love the musical. It's one
Yeah.
of
Oh my
my
god.
It's
favorite
so-
I
things
love
on
yes.
earth.
Oh my god, I have to show you. I showed Ryan and Alma the picture of that my friend, so we got to see it when it went to Denver.
Oh, okay.
And me and my friend Winston and my sister. So I
Aw.
am 15. So first of all, enjoy that. Look at the flip phone. It is a clipped flip phone.
It's got the little date.
Yep.
The date
Yep.
stamped in the corner.
The date stamped in the corner from 2007.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was
So
fabulous. I love
so funny. Almost 20 years ago,
Jeez, that's crazy.
which feels crazy, but also hilarious.
We would like not well. My friend can sing very well, but me no. But we would just sing "Defying Gravity" at
Yeah,
the
obviously.
top of our lungs in
Yep.
choir class because we could.
Yep.
Those are some of my favorite things. to
I was
do.
always my sister's like role model, especially singing wise, is Idina Menzel.
Yeah.
So
obviously.
I always did Glinda's parts, obvi.
Oh, sure.
My sister was Elphaba.
Yeah.
I remember too, like that friend, Winston. I don't think you listen to this, but if you're randomly listening to this, Winston, cheers. We used to play the music in his basement, and they had like a step ladder that we would like put up so he could like run up and like at the big epic part of Defying Gravity, just like yell at it on like
Like he was
yeah.
flying.
Yep. It was great. It was very fun. We were big nerds.
Actually, I don't remember how I got introduced to Wicked specifically, but I do know that I was randomly listening to Popular and I knew every single word and I was like, why do I know this? And then suddenly I know everything about Wicked.
I heard Popular because 6th grade, they randomly had like one period where like every few weeks you would change to a different type of class.
Oh.
And one of them was like a musical seminar thing. And so we just listened to like a bunch of songs. So we heard Popular then. And then a couple years later, when we were going to go see this film or, go see the show in Denver, we were listening to the album and we were trying to figure out what the plot was. So we were all sitting around listening to it and we're like, okay, so that means this. We had no clue. Like the music by itself does not do enough to explain what the hell is going on.
Nope.
Which is fine. You don't have to if you're a musical and you have other stuff going on. But we were like, oh, we got it. We unlocked it. And then after we left, we were like, that was not what we thought it was. But it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is actually from 2010 an Ariana Grande song
Oh,
that samples Popular.
really?
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's how the first time I listened to Popular, I was like, how do I know this?
Oh.
And it was because I had never sought it out and listened to it, but I had heard
The sample.
song.
Yeah. Oh.
being played, and so then
That's
I was
cute.
like, wow, this
Which
is strange.
song is it?
I don't believe that it's actually Ariana Grande's song. I think she's featured in it,
Oh,
but
sure.
she sings Popular in it.
Huh. Maybe that's also. Maybe that's it. I don't know. My brain doesn't hold memories. So
I also watched the bootleg copy with Norbert Leah Butz and Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, which was very formative for me
of
as
course.
a child.
Oh, it's Micah or Mika, and the song is called Popular Song.
Oh, great.
11
Oh,
years
is
ago.
it Mika?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mika.
Mika.
They have another song that I absolutely adore, and it's because I heard these what is it called when they sing acapella? It was an acapella group from UNL. It was all guys, and this one dude that was the best one from my opinion hit this high note so crazy. Immediately, I was like, I have feelings for this man.
Yep.
And I had no idea what was going on, but my body felt like I
Yeah.
needed to
I
listen to that song
understand that
forever
feeling.
now.
Yeah, I respect you. You are valid.
Thank you. Anyway, we're going to unintentionally promote Wicked.
Yeah, but it's good though.
Someone pay us.
No, for real.
Wicked, pay us.
Thanks. Big fan.
Oh my God! Did you see that on the Barbie merch for Wicked? They
Yep.
on the back
Mm-hmm.
they link wicked.com, and that's a porn site.
No.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Wicked movie.
wickedmovie.com. I saw that for the first time in the Barnes & Noble booksellers group because there's a Facebook page for current and former booksellers, and someone was like, we just Sharpied through all of it. They just had to go through and
Doing Sharpie
Sharpie
all.
everything.
So they just had to
So
contact
funny.
everyone they distributed those to and
Yep.
have them be like, nah.
Yep.
Damn. Whoever
That's why we need
did not
proofreaders.
catch that is in big trouble.
Oh my God,
That's a
so
lot
much
of
trouble.
money.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. That's why I couldn't try to design for such a large scale
Yeah, oh my God, no.
corporation. I would just cry of nervousness.
I
'cause
mean,
would-
that's why whenever I get a tattoo from Wes, if it has words on it, they're like, read it. And I'll say, yep, that's what it says. And they're like, read it again. And then I double check it again. And they say, read it a third time. They make you do 3 run-throughs
No, that's wise.
because it's going on your body.
I'm
And in
gonna
this
get
case, it's
the-
going out to millions of people.
I'm gonna get the
Yeah.
no regrets.
Yeah,
on purpose, though.
seriously.
Oh,
For real.
It's one of my favorites.
Anyway,
So yeah, I'm Tia,
I'm Jamie.
and I'm Ryan.
and we're the ADHD queens.
Woohoo!
I'm not a soprano. Sorry.
You're valid.
Cool. And we read "She Would Be King" by Wayetu Moore. I think I'm only 60% confident on that, but fabulous writer. She is Liberian American,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly. This is her debut fiction novel. She actually debuted with her memoir.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's I'll have to look it up and I can mention it later. But her memoir was her original first novel, and she was concerned about it becoming her form of writing that she got stuck with.
mm-hmm.
So then she was like, I'm gonna go this way, and it still talks about stuff that is related to her, because she got information and stuff like that from her personal family and their experiences and understandings of everything. But she was like, I need to put in a whole lot of stuff that's not real.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And I'm excited to talk about it because
Yeah.
it was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't write that stuff down, but I did do a
Great.
lot of research. I remember specifically going into my computer and just falling down this rabbit hole of what Liberia is. It is an American colony, but it was established by free Black Americans.
Yeah.
And then, the French were surrounding that area at the time, and so they were trying to like go in and take it back because why should Black people have anything? And also Americans.
In Africa.
Right.
Yeah.
So that if you look up their flag is very similar to ours, and the reason is it's because they took all of the same ideas and values but put it into their own version. So it has like 11 stripes for the original 11 like founders.
Nice.
And then a single star on the blue background. Similar concept, but not quite the 50 state thing. But a lot of people apparently Google, why does this look alike? Or why did they copy this? And I was like, it's like really old history, guys.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about, I've read a book from Liberia before already, but it wasn't about Liberian history. So I didn't know any of that. And I have a history degree.
Right.
We didn't really talk about that in my history classes.
That's the thing I think I took away the most of being upset about was that this is American history.
Yeah.
But it's like not ever once mentioned. And
No.
I have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
I feel like I should know something. But no, I don't know any of this. And I know why I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
But it's just like, Jesus.
Yeah. Because like in my school, I remember, one of my intro level history classes in college talking about the idea of sending Black people
Back to Africa. Yeah.
But we didn't talk about the execution of it. We didn't talk about the fact that that is now a nation state in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like none of that. We didn't talk about any of that.
It's wild.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
The other two settings outside of Liberia are Jamaica and then Virginia.
Yes.
One is a plantation, and then Jamaica is freshly. They were the Maroons, and then the like colonizers. They were like not quite separated, but they had like an agreement not to interact with each other. So I'm thinking like not quite Haiti.
Yeah.
Because, they had to pay the French back for, winning their independence. Whatever. Yeah. That's a different book. So, yeah, similar concept. Lots of slave trading, lots of kidnapping, lots of colorism, lots of. But also with this one, we go into a lot of magical realism, which was really trippy. I liked it a lot.
Yes.
There was so much that I can't even really get into it without having to tell the whole story. So I think we should talk first impressions and then like try to get the summary in through that way. Because it's a lot of book.
It is a lot of book.
Real quick, so the book does get divided into two parts. So the first part is essentially the backstories of the three main characters and a lot of other characters that interact with them or make them.
Yeah.
And then also the last chapter is when they all meet together.
Yep.
And then the second part is kind of how that all plays out in Liberia, if I'm remembering correctly. So,
yeah.
There's your basic setup.
Yeah.
But yeah, first impressions.
So I was so enthralled with the backstory stories. I was so interested in June Day's story.
Yeah.
I was super interested in Bessa's story. I didn't really care that much for Norman. What's the last name?
Aragon.
Norman Aragon. I didn't care that much for his story. I thought it was interesting. But I was so interested in June Day's story. That was the one that I was like fixed on, that was what really hooked me, which his was the second one, right? Because we got Bessa first and then June Day.
Yep.
That was the first one. I was interested in Bessa's story. But the first time that I was like hooked was June Day's.
Okay. Yeah.
So the very first bit is not about any of them. It's about the old lady who won't die, and then she kills the cat.
Yeah, but technically that has to do with Bessa's story.
Right.
Yeah.
But, it's that thing of like, oh, there's folklore. And I was like, oh, are they telling us the story?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah. That's
I
fair.
see what
That's
you're
fair.
saying.
And so, like, anytime something like that happens, even if it isn't what ends up happening, I'm invested because I love a good prophecy. I
Yes,
love a
absolutely.
good foreshadow in the form of folklore
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I was like really interested. And then Bessa, like at the end of her part, I was like, wait, but there's still like so much of this book left. And it felt like it was like, I mean, like they kicked her out again.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then it was like, okay, now switching topics. And so I was like, wait, are we going to get like a bunch of, is this like another short story thing?
Mm.
Or is it going to be like a crazy stupid love thing where it's like following
Yes.
all these different characters and
It
then they
is
tie back together?
Love Actually, Crazy
Yeah.
Stupid Love.
Yeah. So I was interested in
Yeah.
the beginning.
I
Yeah.
haven't read a book that did that. I've watched, of course, all the romance
Yeah,
movies,
all the
all
rom-coms,
the
yeah.
Christmas ones. But I was really intrigued by her choice to do that for this one. Bessa got me curious. June Day had me messed up because I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yep.
There was like, I had to re-listen to it because I was like, wait, I missed a detail. But that was it.
Yeah.
There was
So,
so
like,
much.
Just a quick recap if you are listening and you don't know what happened. June Day's story, what was her name? Charlotte?
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Emerson.
it
Charlotte
starts
Emerson.
with Charlotte Emerson, who is a slave,
Mhm.
an enslaved person on the Emerson farm. And she witnesses a young girl get like caught for being not where she was supposed to be
Mhm.
and beaten. And she runs out to try to save her.
Mhm.
And then she herself is hit. And then from then on, like everyone just totally ignores her. And she's like, everybody hates me because I didn't do enough to stop the beating and blah, blah, blah. So she casts herself away and she lives in this abandoned house. And then one day they throw this man in because he was purchased from another estate. And so she talks to him sometimes, but like no one else on the plantation will speak to her. And when they come into her home, they only speak to him. His name is Day, D-E-Y. And like at this point, I know that she's actually dead. Like I have,
Yeah,
that's the only note that I wrote down from this whole thing. I was like, yeah, she was dead. Duh. So she is actually a ghost. And that is why no one speaks to her, is she actually died that day when she was trying to protect that girl. But Day has sort of like a sense and can see her.
Mhm.
He got kicked out of his farm or his previous plantation because they killed his wife,
Yeah.
his pregnant wife. And so he
Lost
like
it.
revolted and freaked out. And so they sold him. He comes here. Charlotte becomes pregnant, even though they
Yes.
have never had sex because she is a ghost. She gets pregnant with the baby that he would have had.
Yeah, spiritually and all that.
Yeah. So then the baby is born. June Day, I don't remember. Or Day, I don't remember what he does. He leaves. Does he die?
Yeah, no, he's trying to go with the people that come to get him and act like nothing's in there. But
Oh, yeah.
They hear the baby
cry.
because the baby from the ghost mother is physical.
Is physical, yeah. So the baby gets raised by someone else. But
Darlene.
Darlene
Mhm.
gets raised by Darlene, a different slave. And Charlotte becomes basically like the wind, and she is the narrator this entire time.
Yeah.
She sees Bessa. She, flies across the sea, sees Bessa. She sees Norman. She watches June Day. And like his name is June Day. And she knows that because that is what she named him. But he is named Moses by everyone else.
Mhm.
So it's fucked up because he's just like, he's a kid, but he also is a ghost. And he also has superhuman powers where he cannot get hurt or seemingly die.
Yeah, he's like indestructible.
He's
kind of.
indestructible. So that
Bullets
was
just like bounce off.
just
of
bounce
him.
off of him. And he finds that out when people are trying to hurt his mom, Darlene. Darlene mom, not Charlotte mom, because he doesn't know that Charlotte mom exists because she's a ghost. But Darlene, they go to whip her, and he stands in front of it, and nothing happens. And he's like, cool. Tries to save his mom, can't save his mom, etc. But he is like, at that point, that was what really hooked me. I was like, what are we doing with this weird ghost kid? Like,
yeah, that was
and
fair.
Charlotte's story, because you get invested in Charlotte's story.
Yeah, because she's apparently integral to
Yeah.
to everything.
And she was super interesting and just like, oh, you're a ghost like this whole time.
Mm.
And, you know, I can tell because she's getting upset because people won't talk to her. But it's like, if no one's talking to you, you're a ghost.
Yeah, I
Probably.
fully didn't pick up on it.
Really?
Yeah, I
really?
was listening to it, and like as I was like walking the dog, like I could tell I was like, okay, Ryan, like I had to pull my focus back to it pretty frequently, just because I was getting distracted, and so like I'm sure that if I had been like had 100%
That's fair.
Yeah.
attention on it, I would have picked it up, but since I didn't, I did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then when he like points to her grave and he's like, that's you
Yeah.
in there. And she's like, what? I was also like, oh.
Yeah. I was like, when are we going to do this?
I had a similar issue, but it was because I couldn't figure out the narrator, and it's because I missed like a detail about Charlotte getting pulled into like the ancestral realm is what the vibe I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she became a part of the ancestors, and that's why she was able to then see Bessa, and I
Yep.
was like, she's going back to where she's from,
Yes.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that got a little weird.
I
for
didn't
me,
figure
but-
out that until when Charlotte is with Day, she's like growing older, even though she had
Yeah.
been the same age
Yep.
for a
Mhm.
while. And then at the end of that is she says like, and then I like sailed away.
Yeah.
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 And I was like, oh, okay. So she's not staying in Virginia.
No.
And then I didn't put it together that she was the narrator
Mm-hmm.
until Norman.
There was a part in Norman's where like it says like since I was in Virginia or
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
when I
Something
saw
like-
June Day.
And I
It
was
was
like,
like a
what?
first
Yeah.
person mention, and I was like,
I was like,
okay, I see.
oh,
Mm-hmm.
I see what's
okay.
happening.
But now that you mention it, so in the essential thing for me from Norman Aragon's story is that they have to be near each other to like activate each other's powers, kind of thing. That's not 100%, but they do mention that it like works better when they're closer to, say, this mountain in Jamaica, or they're near each other, and then they can like see their powers.
Well, it says
function
like
well.
when they need them
Yeah,
too.
that
So
too.
like when they're in danger.
And then, but like now I'm like, okay, so Day must have also been one of those same people that just has the like special ability.
Mhm.
And then Charlotte had one too, and now they created this other child.
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting to see how they all like end up meeting each other at some point or
Yeah.
being a part of each other. And I'm just like, everything's connected.
Yeah.
So yeah, Love Actually,
Love
Yeah.
Actually.
but not as rude. I don't know. Anyway, much more tragic though.
Yeah. Oh, so much more tragic.
Um,
Although, fuck Alan Rickman's character.
yeah. Sorry, Alan.
We love Alan Rickman.
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
It's good.
it is good.
It is very fun.
That's why I reference Crazy Stupid Love.
Also,
Because-
Crazy Stupid Love is a fun ass movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
And has like the best scene. I wanted to watch just that scene.
I'm
I
not
was trying to
crazy.
find like the best scene in Crazy Stupid Love, but it was called something that was just like the best scene in television in movie history, and I was like, it was called that. Like I found it by YouTubing that,
That's
and
fantastic.
everyone was like, "I know what you mean." I was like, "Thank you. Yes, you get it.
Perfect.
It's great." So you're right. Love Actually is also worth it.
Word.
It's from 2004, I think, so it's a 20-year-old movie. So
Give it.
it
Mhm.
hasn't aged perfectly, but it is very fun.
Word.
Anyway.
Story. Okay, so June Day story, wild. Norman Aragon story, not so wild, but you do get to know that, like, oh, Jamaica is a really essential role in all of this. Like, I knew that the islands were an essential part of the whole slave trade, but this really got it to me to like understand how they all played a role in future things that would be mentioned. So they all end up meeting in Monrovia.
Mm-hmm.
Junde and Norman Aragon meet because they both got sent to prison or jail, not prison, jail.
Well, yes.
So Junde gets shipped out. Norman Aragon catches a boat, and they end up both in Monrovia, and then get caught and are in
Yeah, because
jail.
June is trying to go to New York.
Yes,
Yeah,
he gets
and
on
instead-
a very wrong boat.
Yes.
He sleeps through it.
He sleeps
Yeah,
through the
that's right.
New York stop. So then they just go
Keep
on
on
over.
going.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Bessa is
There.
already there.
Yeah.
She lives there in her solitude and really sad,
Yeah.
lonely life.
Well, then they all just move on their own lives. Bessa
Well-
continues to have her own life.
Yeah, they
Oh, they get separated.
they meet Bessa, and then they get attacked,
Mm-hmm.
and
By
Bessa.
is it the French again?
Yes.
I think it's predominantly the French.
It's
that are
usually
the
causing
French.
issue.
And they think they kill Bessa, and then she wakes back up, and so then they
Right.
try to kill her again, and Norman disappears, and I don't remember what happens to June, but then they get separated anyway.
Yeah. And I think we come to understand that Norman and Junde end up finding each other and kind of like being supermen,
Yeah, they just
Together.
become sort of like vigilantes.
Yeah.
kicking French ass.
Yeah, specifically white people.
Yes.
We have like a moment of clarity with June Day later where he's like, sometimes I might have to kill black people too.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. But for the most part, it's white people,
That is fair.
which, fair enough.
And we get to understanding why Junde is confused about having to kill black people or people that look like him.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of more through Bessa though, because she ends up getting taken in by like a really wealthy family.
Yeah, she sort of wakes up and is now a servant,
Yeah.
you know?
And they're like, don't leave. And she's like, I guess.
Yeah,
She becomes besties with, is it Macy?
Macy.
And she's a sweetheart, but she has like essentially tied her into this other life that she would have never otherwise lived.
Mm-hmm.
So she does end up learning English and becomes kind of a lady.
Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
servant for a while, and then the general,
Falls in love with her.
yeah, and asks to marry her, and so then it becomes part of polite society.
Right. In the worst of ways.
Yeah.
Because obviously when people have money, they suddenly look down on you.
Yep.
What that part infuriated me because I just couldn't understand how they didn't see the irony in it.
Yep.
So the people that are of society in Liberia at this time are all black descendants. Either they are slaves themselves or they are from slaves that have come back to Africa. And they have this air about them where they believe themselves to be better than Africans because they're civilized.
Mm-hmm.
So then they don't,
They have God, and they know
Yes.
English.
and they're, just like that hoity-toity that you see in those types of like situations. But it was really interesting to me to see how distinct that was happening between two groups that if they were in America, people would just be like, y'all both black, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so they'd both be discriminated against. But they had their own farms. They had servants, though, not slaves.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing they had to make sure that was
Mhm.
clear. We took care of our servants. And I was like, great. You could just do it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, they do pay them though.
Yeah.
They do,
Which
yes.
is good.
And you could have not
Yeah.
servants. You could just have like, staff,
Right.
which is like,
Yeah.
paid better. This is a job instead of like,
Yeah.
you have to
Servitude.
work for me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because like Bessa was not given a job,
No.
she was taken
And told you
and
have
told
a job.
you have a job now.
Right. And then
and
they,
then given to the lady's daughter
yeah,
when she got married.
and heavily criticized for having any sort of association with the place that she's from
Yeah.
that
Yep.
they came to.
Yep.
And I was just like, huh. Okay. That was a big pill to swallow. And maybe that's just like from an ignorant standpoint. Like I know this stuff exists. I know that colorism is a huge thing. And I know that this is kind of a version of that. But it's just like the whole point was for y'all to go back so that you could feel better and not just become your oppressors.
Yeah.
But it's just age-old tale.
Cyclical.
Yeah.
A cyclical cycle of cycles.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just like once you get power, you're going to push other people down.
The general's mom, psycho lady that was kept going after Bessa for not being perfect about everything. And I was like,
yeah.
Lots of choking would have happened if I had to interact with her.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Anyway.
Oh, we should say the reason that Bessa is like living this lonely life up before she gets pulled into this society is her village shunned her because she was born on a day where
it was like an evil day. Something had happened.
Yeah, someone.
It was the old lady killed the cat on that day, and then the cat killed the old lady with her house, and then Bessa was born, even though her mom was like, "Don't
please
be
no,
born."
this is going to be a cursed baby."
And so, yeah, she said like because all this bad stuff is happening on this day, the village is going to say the baby is cursed, and then the baby comes out with red hair,
which obviously is a bad sign of anything.
Yeah, and on that day, and then she was right. Everyone was like, "You're cursed. You're a witch.
Yeah,
go die in this
Bessa the
cave."
witch.
And then she just doesn't die, and so she just lives on her own forever.
Yep.
Until she gets pulled in.
God. So that's like two sides. She experiences like the one side where they just don't know any better because that's just how they function, and then the other side where they should know better, but they definitely don't. So that's just how they function, and I'm just like, God, poor Bessa.
Yeah.
And then she still comes back and decides to be like, these are all my people. I need to. Girl, I would not have that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, bye,
and
guys.
she does say that. You know, at the end, she's like, they kicked me out, and I'm still going to claim them as people, so you're welcome.
Yeah. What a good heart.
Yeah.
She had too much patience for these people.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, we get through some crazy trials and tribulations of all of them. Towards the end, we get reminded that Norman Aragon and June Day exist.
Yep.
Because they kind of just like fall off the map a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like they were brought in every now and then just to like remind you
that they exist,
that they're doing.
Yeah,
the
they say
thing.
that like because Norman is mulatto.
Yes.
And so he has paler skin, obviously. And Bessa mentioned something about the spirit of it's like one spirit in two bodies, one's black and one's white. And that's like when we were saying they were like vigilante supermen people. Other people would see this black man and this mulatto man and think that it was
like the
one of their spirit god things, even though they're just two dudes.
Yeah.
Which happen to have really cool powers.
Yeah.
Really cool powers.
Which I loved that. I did love that they gave them the role of saving people when they could. I was like, I needed that because I know so much bad is actually happening.
Yeah.
And I liked that it would mention like, oh, Norman just kind of like, or not Norman, June would just kind of sit back and wait for Norman to break the guy's fingers who were holding a gun. He's like, oh, this man's pointing a gun at me, but I'm not worried because Norman, he's just going to go up there and break his fingers while he's invisible and it'll all be fine.
I also kind of liked that they didn't really like each other either.
Yeah.
Like Norman and June Day were like not friends, but also friends because they have to be. Yeah. But they're just like, we don't hang out, you know? We don't chill.
Such different vibes of people.
Yeah.
But I was like, but y'all are like brothers. Like I could see them having that brotherly relationship. And then when June and Norman separated, June was like, oh,
you're like the only guy I know.
I guess.
Now I'm just going to go chill with Madame Zeroni on the mountain.
Fair. I think for the most part, then we just start to see how society ends up needing to also acknowledge the Africans they're dealing with and vice versa. And
Mhm.
then they're all about to go fight the French.
Yeah.
And that's when it ends.
Yep.
Well, and Bessa gets shot in the stomach.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then she's like, fine.
But she's like,
She like
I know I'm
stands
going to
up. She's
come
like,
back.
nah, it's gonna be fine.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
because her power is like resurrection,
Life.
basically.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting that they called it life and
Yeah.
not just like, oh, she doesn't die.
Well, because in the beginning, they say like the old lady was cursed because she mastered life because she was 193 years old.
Yeah.
And Bessa's cursed because she mastered death. And so in the beginning, her power is death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
It becomes
life. But I interpreted the ending as like she didn't come back this time.
Oh.
Oh.
I guess
Because
I didn't.
it said like she said she waited for her resurrection, and then it's just like,
And I guess
done.
I
Oh.
wouldn't necessarily. I guess I didn't necessarily walk away with like she physically came back. I think that it was more of like the idea of her as like leading this group, because like She Would Be King is about Bessa.
Mhm.
Charlotte says that. She says
if she wasn't a witch, she'd be a woman. If she wasn't a woman, she'd be a girl. And if she wasn't a girl, she would be king.
So like, and she is the one that kind of leads everyone to go face the French, you know?
Mhm.
So I guess I sort of took it as like, if she didn't physically come back, you know, to life ? Like the idea of her, the power of her sort of leads them to being able to win this battle.
Sure.
Kind of
okay.
like, you know, the charge of her, whatever.
Yeah.
So like resurrection in a way, question mark.
Like she joins the ancestors.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
becomes
kind of.
like
She's like
Charlotte
Charlotte, and kind of because
connects
Charlotte
people
is always
together.
sort of like bumping things, you know, like not like physical things, but like ideas. She's like
Yeah.
going up and like whispering to people, like, "Go north, don't worry about it," you know, like. So yeah, I guess that's fair.
I took it more literally because I didn't think about it too much.
And
but
she's just like, "I'm back, bitches."
I took it as like, you know, the end of a Marvel movie, the part 1, and like like she dies and you're like, cool, but you know that she's going to come back, and then when the second movie comes in, which is not going to happen, but then it starts in that middle of the war scene and there she is.
And she
back to
like
life.
she gasps
She's
back
like,
to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I visualized it. But I understand though. I like the way you guys saw it as well. Both of your perspectives, I feel like, make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. There was a lot of details and a lot of different roles that just like mixed together. I feel like, I don't know, she got the complexity of real life really well in the story. And I feel like not everyone does that. Like they have just like more of a flatter perspective on things.
Yeah, I liked Bessa's character in like she did grow up in this environment where they like kicked her out and twice and blamed her for the death of the kid that didn't even die.
Didn't even die.
And then, you know, she gets into this basically, you know, position of power and the wife of this guy, but she's still helping Macy all the time, and then all of a sudden she doesn't help Macy because she knows that it's not polite, you know, it's not proper.
Yeah, she doesn't invite Macy to
And she doesn't invite Macy to the breakfast, and she is like kind of torn by this, but she still does it. And it's like, you kind of get why, because she is new to this environment. And oh my God, the moment where it's like, I can't remember. I think it might have been that party that she didn't invite Macy to, but she like is doing all of the things that Macy taught her. We like specify that she is doing all the things that Macy taught her to in order to get to the point where she can kind of throw Macy away.
Yeah.
But I thought it was so interesting because you know why she would do that. You know, she's finally given power and she does have to leave this person behind. And it sucks and she's upset about it, but she's still going to do it. And it's just like a very complex person.
It's just like Wicked.
It is just,
yeah,
that's fair.
Okay.
You're right.
It's
You're right.
exactly what happens with Galinda.
Yes. You are right.
Except for with Galinda, there's like tyranny
Yeah.
involved.
Actually, do you know what it's like? The B movie. Just saying.
Uh huh.
Yeah. I guess, so for me, I rated it 3.5, not because I thought it was bad, but because I thought that, like, all of the things that I really liked about it had nothing to do with Liberia. I felt like
Okay.
I was so invested in, like, the Bessa, and I don't remember the hell his name. I was so interested, and, like, that was a toxic nightmare.
Oh yeah.
But it was interesting, and I was
Yeah.
so interested in June Day and how he came to be, and Charlotte, and Norman was there. He was fine. He just was not as interesting of a character as the other two. But, like, none of that really, I felt like we could have tied it more to the history, you know?
Yeah, because like it does the like tagline or the like super bare minimum description is like a fantastical retelling of the foundation or of the founding of
Yeah.
Liberia, and it's just like the foundation or the founding of Liberia just kind of happens
It
in the
happened
background.
off screen, and it doesn't really have to do with the three of them. You know,
Yeah.
like, I thought what we were going to do was the three of them were going to come together. Liberia wasn't going to be a thing. The three of them to come together and create that.
Yeah.
But really, it just kind of happens. Like, Liberia happens, and the three of
And-
them happen to be there at this battle.
Yeah, the three characters more bring the indigenous people into being like peaceful with Liberia.
Yeah. But it's not even really all three of them. It's
Yeah.
mostly Bessa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other two are just there. Their whole thing is to protect the people of Africa. Sick. Great. Love that. But it's sort of irrelevant that they are at Liberia, you
Yeah.
know? So, and there wasn't really, I wanted to learn more about the founding of Liberia. You know, it sort of is like, you know, the other story that we have read that sort of talks about real history is A Grain of Wheat for Kenya. And, like, I was looking for it to be more like that of, like, even though there was this whole deep history happening, it was still, you could pull out, these are real things that happen. And this is, so, like, the frame story is the Mau Mau Rebellion. And then we get all of these really diverse, interesting characters throughout, as opposed to this, which was like these really fascinating, descriptive characters, and somewhere in the background, Liberia is founded. You know?
Yeah.
So I think the reason that it didn't, I liked it, I was really interested in it, but I couldn't rate it higher personally because I was sort of like, I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get, it didn't feel like you said, like a mystical retelling of the founding of Liberia, but I felt like it could have had more to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and maybe that's just like my expectations going into this book, but that was sort of it. And it also did kind of feel like I thought that we were going to do like the first half of the book and all three of them are separate and then we meet up and then we meet up and we are a team. We don't.
Yeah.
You know, we have Bessa doing her stuff and then Junde and Norman, we pop in on every once in a while and then they even break up.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
kind of
like really Norman and Junde like could have just like not been there at all and it would have the story
Honestly-
still could have happened the way it
honestly
did.
100% you are correct.
Because
Like
the only thing, like, Norman warns Bessa that the French are still stealing people.
right, but like also the guy
Yeah.
told her too, you know,
Yeah.
she gets that information from what's his face's son. So it's like I think maybe that's what was feeling so weird for me is that it's Bessa's story
Yeah.
and it's just kind of weird to give but like I want June Day's story in there. I
Yeah.
just want it to matter and I wish
Yeah.
that they were kind of like a team instead of people who met one time and then meet once at the very end again.
So it's reimagining the early years of Liberia. So it's not the founding, because Liberia existed as an American colony, and then it won its independence to become its own nation state that it is. I think this is where the nation state is trying to start to become a thing. That's when the American Colonization Society dips.
Yes.
When they dip. And so that's why, to me, this was it was deeply involved in the actual history, but it was the people that needed to get it so that it was going to happen instead of making the actual founding. This battle is huge because first we have to acknowledge that the French are even doing this / British, because you know that they were probably helping.
For sure.
And they were all being sneaky, and they were all like breaking laws that have been in place for decades at this point. Yeah, it had been decades. And then from there, once they were able to be like, nah, fuck you guys, then the 11 founders, or people who signed the paper, it's 11 of them, then they can go and tell their story. So I saw it as more like a prequel to the actual like foundation. So
Yeah.
I liked the way that it ended. I did not expect it to go this route, but I felt like I really got a better understanding of how all of this would have played out from a Black and African person's perspective more so. Because I was like, hold up. None of you are white except the ones that come in on occasion. And I had to like make sure I was like visualizing it correctly, especially when they were all being really rude
Yeah.
about having money. I was like,
Yeah. When they kept saying like, oh, the Johnsons and their mansion, it was like you had to like revert
right.
Like
back
who the
to-
Johnsons
yeah,
are.
Who the
Yeah.
Johnson, because it's such a like Johnson's like one of the most common names in America,
Yeah.
and
for
you
a
don't-
reason.
Yeah.
For that reason that you're thinking.
Yep. And so it's like these are Black people
Yeah.
who are doing this.
Yeah.
It was.
Well,
it's,
and I-
it's so easy to think of white people being shitty.
Yeah.
Because that's just how we know them.
Yep.
Because white people
Are shitty. Yeah.
They taught them well.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like it. I think that it was just sort of like my expectations, especially, and I think what you said is super valid of like, it's not actually like the foundation of, but sort of like the early years of. But yeah, I wish that we had more to do with each other. I wish
No.
that Bessa Junde and Norman Aragon like
I was
were together
I
at
think
any point,
probably
really.
disappointed only in the fact that they only reunited at that like last
Yeah.
page.
Well, and I thought then maybe we're going to do, because we do reunite and then immediately, you know, Bessa gets taken and she goes to the Johnson's farm. And I thought like, oh, okay. But then they're going to come back. And then, yeah, it was
They
just
just didn't.
it was just a totally separate. And that story was so interesting too. Like I thought that we needed to see all that stuff because, yeah, Liberian society, like we really, that's like part of what we're doing here is we are seeing the colorism. We're seeing how all of these different factions play into each other. But yeah, I wish that, I don't know, you know, I do kind of wish that they all came together because I really wanted it to be like, you know, teaming up. I wanted it to be crazy, stupid love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the invisible man, the man who can't die, and the girl who can die but comes back to life.
Yeah.
Create like a Avengers.
Yeah.
That's why I think I went so hard into the Avengers, because in my head I was saying, oh, and then here comes Norman, steps out and is visible.
Yeah,
and then here
right.
comes Junde over on this cliff.
Yeah,
And, like,
exactly.
I was just like
Like the beginning of a Marvel movie where they're each coming out and like showing their little powers so you can get like a remembrance of like, oh yeah, okay, you're the
that
lightning
one.
guy and
Yeah, I wanted that to happen a little earlier, at least, just so we could see them come back, because they intermixed like in a interesting way, because she couldn't speak English until way later, and so they just had to like guess, and I was like, this would have been a fun little.
yeah.
I didn't write the book, so
Yeah, I listened to it a lot while I was working.
yeah.
But I also was listening to a lot of books interspersed. I was listening to like various thriller books, and I was listening to I'm listening to a book called Salt, A World History. That literally it's just a history of how salt interacts with like every culture since the beginning of human history.
Fascinating.
It's really interesting. However, it's not the driest text that I've ever read, but it's like drier than all the fun things that I read.
Because it's salt.
Because it's literally about salt, but it is super fascinating, TBH. A lot of laws are around because of salt, you know, and a lot of people are rich because of salt. But yeah, I was listening to that. I was listening to some rando thriller books, and then I was listening to this, and it was like very disjointed, but also like their story was kind of disjointed, you know, of like, oh, we're here. But I did feel better once we got to Bessa's story, because I did like the beginning. I was like, this feels like Bessa's the main character, and then June Day was like the main character for a while. And then Norman, rest in peace, Norman. I don't know why you get nothing. But he didn't even feel like the main character of his story. His mom felt like the main character of his story.
Mom did feel like the main
and
character.
then we get back to Bessa. And I was like, oh no, this is Bessa's story. And that was the thing that like we haven't even touched on, because I mean we briefly mentioned, but like her story was really like this obsession with this kid that when she was young, couldn't leave her house until she was like 13, and she was kicked out of her house. And because her mom was like, she like brought her to the fields, but then people were like, no, she's cursed, go away.
She's like ruining the supply.
Yeah. So then she was like forced to just stay at home all the time. And one kid comes and talks to her, and she falls desperately in love with him because he's like the first person to show her any sort of kindness.
And it wasn't even that kind.
And it wasn't even that kind. It was pretty mid.
Yeah.
But then he is like the prince of the community, which means that he is also the king of the community that kicks her out, and she's still like obsessed with him. And that was like such an interesting whole, like she gets married to this other guy, but she's always thinking about this guy. But it's like, dude, he kind of sucks, honey. Like he kicked you out.
Like Cobalt Blue.
He's kind of mid. He kicked you out. He was the guy. He was the prince that kicked you out the first time and the king that kicked you out the second time. But then at the very end, she still is like thinking of him. And it's like, honey.
And then she finds out he died.
He died,
so-
and she is like
Theoretically,
distraught.
he could be a slave right now.
Yeah.
He could.
That's what I was kind of wondering, if after she had gotten kicked out the second time and he was taken, if like June Day or Norman's mom maybe had like some connection to him, and then
that could
that
have
would
been
have
an
been like a cool
interesting-
thing to like
Yeah.
tie them in, and then it just didn't
Like,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah,
I knew
nothing
your-
really happened.
Boyfriend, not boyfriend.
Man, person.
That one. But the chances of that are really low, seeing as how they could all just die on the boat. And
Correct.
just get
Yeah.
dumped into the water. So,
Yeah.
oh well. Maybe that was too fantasy for this.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But no, I didn't dislike the book.
No,
There was
I
just a couple
understand.
things. So that's the only reason I gave it a 3.5, was because like it's hard for me to get all the way up to a 5. Like I feel like I have to reserve that for things. And so like 4 is like I really, really, really liked it. And then 3.5 is like I liked it with a question mark at the end. You know,
Sure.
I did like it, but I do have some notes, which is why I had 3.5. I did
That's
like it.
fair.
It is a good book.
I did put a 4.5 because it wasn't quite a 5 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking Addie LaRue was a 5. That destroyed me,
You're welcome.
but it was so good. Anyway, that's a whole other time of talking, 'cause that thing was wild.
Word.
But I got some pretty good like vibes from it. I go based solely off of emotional response to
Yeah.
the thing.
You are
Yeah.
valid.
So this one, I really did, like, when I closed the book, I was like, oh, that was I liked the way that ended. I felt
Mhm.
good about everything. There was maybe a little thing here or there that I had complaints about, but like overall it didn't impact how much I enjoyed the
Yeah.
story. Whereas if I don't feel anything when I shut the book, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I should probably just not talk about that book. But it's not often that I get the like, I need this book forever in my life
Yeah.
thing. So far, it's The Book Thief has held that spot most consistently.
Mhm.
And I refuse to reread it because I'm afraid that it's going to ruin it for me.
Yeah, you're valid.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But his second book, Bridge of Clay, also fantastic.
Good.
I'm telling you. So good. And then Addie LaRue was really, really close too.
Word. Emotions.
They're real.
Uva for me is like.
Yeah, I was going to say
way up
Uva was
there.
so good. I was literally just thinking about Uva.
I think about it a lot.
Oh,
Anyway, Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
it's your month.
Mm-hmm. For December, we're going to be reading The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera.
Great.
That will be for the Czech Republic.
oh yeah, that's right. I will get to fill out
Hell yeah.
another spot on my map.
I'm not sure if it was the Czech Republic when the book was written. Let me look that up quick. That episode will come out on potentially December 17th.
That's the goal.
That's the
That
goal.
is the goal. Because Christmas is the next Tuesday, so.
Yep.
Yeah, and then New Year's. So we're
Yep.
really not trying to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah, I mean, I can easily do that. It's fine. I work from home.
I work in a library / cafe. Yeah.
And I'm an accountant.
We have such good jobs for reading.
Yeah.
It was not the Czech Republic,
What was it?
Czechoslovakia.
Okay. Oh yeah,
So then,
but it's still
It just the Czech Republic didn't.
because the Czech Republic
Officially
and
become a thing.
Slovakia were the same country at the time.
Yeah.
They did not split.
European
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
splitting of everything. Like Hungary and...
Austria.
Yes.
Oh, Austria.
Austria-Hungary.
Yeah.
Are now Austria and Hungary. Hungary. Whatever. Gary. The snail.
Gary.
Gary, come home.
Oh,
See you
shit.
next time.
See you next time.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, guys. God, we really ADHD'd this one, you
That
guys.
was pretty bad, yeah.
See you next time.
The suppression, the use of marijuana.
This podcast was brought to you in part by KCUN
Yeah, we could say that.
Please tell me you recorded that.
89.3 FM KCUN.
Perfect.